I just celebrated my 59th birthday a few weeks ago. And the one thing I can say about reaching my 59th birthday is that birthdays come around a lot quicker than they used to. But the reason I wanted to make this video is I tend to use birthdays as a way to gauge where I'm at in my life, physically, mentally, financially. I think about how I feel physically, how I feel mentally and emotionally, and also, obviously, where I'm at financially. And the more I think about it, the more I feel like at 59, I'm actually in better physical health, definitely better mental health than I was when I was 39 or even 29, for that matter. I guess the other reason I wanted to make this video is so that people in their 50s can maybe feel better about where they're at in their life, or maybe they can pick up on some things that will help them feel better about where they're at in their life. It would be easy for me to lament the fact that I'm getting close to 60. I cannot believe that I'm getting close to 60. But I'm not going to spend too much time on the physical part, because that's pretty obvious. You have to exercise, you have to stay healthy, you have to eat right. But that's been pretty easy for me because I've been exercising and working out and paying pretty close attention to what I eat for the better part of 30, 40 years. Actually, I've been working out consistently for over 40 years. So the physical part, it is what it is. Everybody knows that you need to exercise on a regular basis to stay healthy. But when it comes to exercise, it's kind of interesting because we're all going to live a certain number of years. I figure I have about 30, maybe 35 more years. So I'm not really working out and exercising for longevity anymore, because that's sort of a finite reality that we're all going to die 80s, maybe 90s. What I'm hoping to do through continuing to work out and exercise really as vigorously as I did when I was in my 30s and 40s is to maintain a certain quality of life when I get into my mid-60s, 70s, and 80s. I want to be able to move. I want to be able to go on hikes like I'm doing right now when I'm in my mid to late 60s, 70s, and 80s. But the one thing that I really think has benefited me, well, I know it's benefited me over the last 20 years or so, is that I've really focused on my mental health. Depression and mental health issues run in my family, and I thought I would be able to escape that, but I found out about 35 years ago that wasn't going to be the case. One of the things that has really helped me when it comes to working on my mental health is what you're seeing right now. Being outside and just being in nature. Back in my 30s, I was so focused on my career that I realized that I was spending all of my time indoors. In fact, I remember one day, I've worked out of my home for a good portion of my career. And I remember walking out on my patio and sitting down and looking up at the sky. It was a beautiful sunny day out. And I remember looking up at the sky, and it was so beautiful. It literally took me back to the days when I was a little kid, when I would play in the yard and just stare up at the sky. And it felt good. I don't know how to describe it. It felt good on my eyes to just look at the sun and appreciate the sky, hearing the birds. And I remember saying to myself, I've got to spend more time outside. All of my time was spent inside. Ever since I've made it a point to spend more time outdoors, and it has just worked wonders for my mental health. In fact, if I could find a way to spend the majority of my life outdoors, I probably would do that. The other part of why my mental health is better now at 59 than it was at 39 and 29 are relationships. And this was in my mid 40s. I was involved in a relationship at the time which I thought was great. And that relationship ended about 6 years ago. And the more time I've had to reflect on that relationship, the more I realized that it was not a good relationship at all. It's just crazy how you look back and you're able to get a better picture of relationships. But that relationship involved a lot of mental games, and it also involved drinking on a pretty regular basis. And that's another thing that I should make a point of saying, is that I don't drink much at all anymore. There's really no place for alcohol in my life anymore. As we get older, physiologically, our bodies, we can't metabolize alcohol as well as we once did when we were in our 20s and 30s. But I just don't like the way alcohol makes me feel, even a little bit, the next day. It makes me feel sluggish. It makes me feel off. I do still have a beer here and there on the weekends, but that's really few and far between. So cutting alcohol has been a huge benefit in my life. But that relationship involved drinking on a regular basis. And oftentimes what would happen is my partner would drink, and while we were thinking we were having a good time, at least I was thinking we were having a good time at the different breweries we would go to and the different bars we would go to, inevitably, it would end up in an argument. The evening would end up in some type of argument or some type of disagreement. And then once we were arguing and once we were fighting, then you're left with what? All you're left with is being drunk and then the next day being hungover, and you really didn't have a good time. It may have felt good at the time, but after you get into an argument and you're hungover, what's left? Really nothing. So that relationship was just not a good situation, particularly when it came to alcohol. I am in another relationship now. It's a much more healthy relationship. Alcohol is not a part of the relationship really at all, which is great. So that's the one thing I would recommend, is that you, if you do drink, reevaluate your relationship with alcohol. Those are really the core reasons why I feel better at 59 than I did at 29 and 39. I'm just in a better mental space, and physically, my blood work and all that comes back great. In fact, my doctor at the last physical I had, my doctor said I am one of his top 5 healthiest patients that he sees, regardless of age. The other thing I do for my mental health is taking time every day, 10, 15 minutes, to do some deep breathing and meditation and just sitting in a quiet space. That has also worked wonders for my mental health. It just feels so good. I wish I would have been doing that, the deep breathing and the meditation. I wish I would have been doing that in my 30s and 40s, because I probably really needed it back then. We're all getting older, and time goes by so quickly, and the birthdays just seem to come so quickly anymore. But use your birthday to kind of pause and reflect and think about where you're at in your life. Think about how you feel physically and mentally, because those are things you have to work on. Again, everybody knows you have to work out. Everybody knows you should be exercising. But not everybody knows and thinks about things like removing toxic relationships out of your life. That relationship that I was in, when that ended, I was really down. It took me a while to get over that relationship. But again, the more time went by, the more I realized that it was not a good relationship, not a healthy relationship. So use your birthday to kind of do an inventory, a self-inventory of where you're at physically, mentally, and financially. I will leave a link for my book, Mind, Body, and Money. I wrote that book to address what I felt were 3 of the biggest issues and 3 of the biggest concerns that people will deal with in their lives: their physical health, their mental health, and their financial health. In the book, I give you a very simple, common sense daily routine to address your physical, mental, and your financial health. You can also sign up free for my weekly newsletter, Mind, Body, and Money Monday, where I give you 3 very concise, easy to implement tips to help your physical, financial, and your mental health, because I believe we all need that. And what better day to think about your physical, financial, and mental health than Monday, and get the week started off on the best note that you possibly can. So you can check out my newsletter at the link below. And thank you to everybody who has subscribed. I've really been blown away by the interest in that, and I enjoy creating and providing that to you. So leave me a comment below how you feel when your birthdays roll around. Do you just blow them off? Do you not think about them? Maybe in your 20s, birthdays aren't that big of a deal. So maybe you really don't think about them. But in your 40s and 50s, my guess is that you tend to start thinking about your birthdays a little bit more. So leave me a comment and let me know what you think about when you have a birthday and how you're feeling. Do you feel better if you're in your 50s, 60s than you did when you were in your 40s, 30s, and 20s? Well, I hope you got something out of this video. I do tend to ramble when I'm outside. I just love being out here. It's just so quiet. Maybe you can hear some of the birds, but it's beautiful. Spend more time outside. Get outside. Shut your brain off. Get away from your work. Get away from your life and just get out where it's quiet and peaceful. So again, I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. I've made it a goal to provide content that I think is going to benefit people, and I'm really basing all the content I make on things that I've gone through in my life. So thanks again for taking the time to watch, and until next time.